Welcome to the Robotics Through Science Fiction podcast. I'm Robin Murphy, and in this episode, I will talk about Runaway, the 1984 movie where when the robot experts say they use APL as the programming language, you should run away. Or continue watching while letting your inner Crow-T robot savor this MST3K worthy Michael Crichton robot movie. What's that you say, Tom Servo? That Michael Crichton wrote and directed a robot movie that starred Tom Selleck, Kristie Alley, and that obnoxious Kiss member with the big tongue, Simmons? Who knew? Pretty much none of us, because it's a clunker of a movie. In a 20 minutes into the future trope, non-anthropomorphic service robots are everywhere. They're agricultural robots, manufacturing robots, construction robots, and housekeeping robots. And it's great to see robots who aren't humanoids, where form follows function and there are actually economic cost constraints. And when one of those bazillion of everyday robots starts to malfunction, the robot unit at the local police force, not a repair shop, is called in to apprehend and deactivate the robot, apparently requiring off buttons like the really big red ones mandated by the AUVSI competition since the 1990s, or better yet, a wireless remote off button will be too complicated in the future. But for the first few minutes of the movie, it seems like Crichton has produced another techno-thriller worthy of the Andromeda strain and its scary accuracy. And then Tom Selleck's new partner, the forgettable Cynthia Rhodes, announces she's learned APL in preparation for the job. Game over, man. Game over. APL, the functional programming language developed in the 1960s for handling multidimensional arrays, was pretty much dead by 1984. It was wheezing out a few breaths on life support on defense contractors' machines. Crichton had resorted to dropping names rather than crafting a real science narrative. And speaking of a lack of science narrative, later in the movie falls back on cheesy spider robots that crawl up walls and then leap onto people and inject acid into their jugular. The pace of the movie is so slow, you have plenty of time to wonder how the robots with their sharp pointy metal legs are able to climb the walls hanging upside down. It wouldn't be until the 2018 reboot of Lost in Space that we would witness such a blatant disregard of physics in a big-budget robot entertainment. So what languages do roboticists use to program a robot? Lisp? C++? Python? APL? The answer is it's complicated. Robots are not necessarily programmed with a single language. As explained in Software Architecture and in Vinji's Longshot segment in my forthcoming book, Robotics Through Science Fiction, Artificial Intelligence Explained Through 6 Classic Short Stories, robot software is usually organized into layers, much like the spinal cord, cerebellum, and cerebrum in a human central nervous system. The rapid update rate of the lower layers of the reactive behaviors favor procedural language like C or C++ or the more sophisticated and dangerous Python. The upper deliberative layers, where the robot would be performing more planning and reasoning, favor a functional language like Lisp, developed specifically for those types of applications. If the reasoning is using logic, then one of those modules might be more efficient using Prolog, a language created specifically for programming in logic. Prolog, get it? One of the many advantages of a modular approach to programming a robot is that the modules can be in different programming languages and even run on different processors. One language that has not been used for a serious robot endeavor is APL. APL, or a programming language, was developed for mathematical manipulation of arrays and matrices, structures common to image processing and computer graphics. It was part of the gold rush of language development in computer science in the 1960s and 1970s, where everyone was building their own language that was explicitly designed to be more intuitive to program or execute more efficiently for a particular application. Remember, computer science started off with specialized language. Fortran was for mathematical formula translation, and COBOL was for business and payroll processing. APL is unique among programming languages for several reasons. One's that it's a functional programming language, a language where the programmer writes expressions similar to recursive mathematical notation, more of a stream of consciousness vibe. Most practical programming languages are procedural, where the programmer declares each variable and specifies each step, and often avoid recursion because it can create major problems in memory management. APL used a special keyboard since it represented every function you could perform on a multidimensional array with a symbol, both to mirror the mathematical symbology and theoretically to make it quicker and easier than typing out dot product, argument 1, argument 2. Learning the symbols and finding them on that rubber keypad that you had to overlay on the keyboard was a joy. Not. The biggest problem was that even for computer vision imaging processing, there was more to the problem than the complex computations on the image array. For example, you might want to visualize the results, label regions, manipulate your input and output files, cause your robot to move, other niceties. Good luck with that in APL. This is a snippet of APL code. It's there to compute prime numbers. It is not intuitive to read, but on the other hand, it looks like something that would have been used in a science fiction movie by the aliens who just blew up the White House. Now, while roboticists have not converged on a single language and are not expected to, there is a movement to converge on a library of algorithms called ROS, short for Robot Operating System. ROS is actually not an operating system, but rather a framework or toolkit, an app store for robots, if you will. If your programming modules fit the framework, then they could be run in a common simulator and in theory be ported to a suite of defense and commercial robots. ROS is open source, but the Foundation sells their time and effort mostly to government agencies in getting existing code into the framework or expanding the framework. A little side note here, in the DARPA Robotics Challenge, the government-furnished ROS simulator didn't keep up with the changes being made to the government-furnished Atlas robots, and thus if you've got your code to work in the simulation, it might not work on the real robot. Kind of defeated the purpose of a simulator. I got to witness a lot of normally milquetoast roboticists forcefully expressing discontent to the ROS representative at a meeting of the competitors. Anyway, back to task. Runaway is a must-see for robot fans just because it's so terrible. It misses the science and a decent plotline by just a little bit, and so it becomes painfully funny. Some bad movies deserve to be avoided at all costs, like Robot Revolution, but this one deserves to be embraced with a crowd of family and friends ready to mock every scene and cheer on those robot spiders. And in the meantime, stick with C++ or Python as the most general purpose robot languages. Please remember to subscribe to Roboticists Through Science Fiction, our YouTube channel and our newsletter, and you won't miss a thing.